Hey guys, Kris here. In this video, we're comparing the Volkswagen ID4 GTX to the Mustang Mach-E long-range all-wheel drive. And I'm going to tell you guys which car I think is the best. I'm going to go through, all my talking points and all of the categories where you can judge a car. And then it will be up to you at the end of the video if you agree with me and if you weigh some of these talking points, some of these arguments as heavily as I do, because we're all different. We value things differently. So what I'm saying is just my opinion, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, but also, give my opinion because people want to know which car I think is the best. So guys, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Kris. I have this channel dedicated to EVs. I do range tests, charging tests. I compare EVs. I do a whole bunch of EV content. Yeah, that is related to real world stuff. So if these are the types of videos you guys like, please be sure to drop a thumbs up, a like on the video down below, and also hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell. So let's start with pricing and the things that are obvious differences between these two cars that may put you off, immediately. So it's nice to get that out of the way. And from now on, I'm going to be referencing the ID4 GTX as just the GTX and the Mach-E long-range all-wheel drive as the Mach-E. So you guys know which cars I'm talking about. So first off, the GTX's starting price is quite a bit lower than the Mach-E's starting price, almost 100,000 kroners. But you also do get a lot less equipment, and when you fully spec these cars, the GTX comes in at 561,000 and the Mach-E comes in at 599,000. So the Mach-E is still a little bit more expensive, and you also get some kit in the ID4 that you won't get in, the Mach-E, like the head-up display with augmented reality, which we're going to touch upon later. So there is a price difference, but there's also a difference in how these cars are. So we're going to get into that. And other obvious differences in the GTX, which is the car I'm sitting in, you can have a roof box if you want to have skis and, go skiing on holiday, which, well, a lot of people in Norway find very important. 75 kilos. You can't have a roof box on the Mach-E. It's not approved for a roof box. So if you need a roof box, if you go a lot of skiing and you bring your skis from the city to the cabin or from the cabin to the skiing place and you want to place them in a roof box, well, you don't have that option in the Mach-E. And also when it comes to towing, the ID4 or the GTX can tow 1,200 kilos, while the Mach-E can only tow 750 kilos. So yeah, that is quite a difference there. So if that's important for you, well, you know which car to choose. And then lastly, these cars are about the same size in the exterior, and the interior is about the same size. Maybe the GTX is a little bit bigger, feels a little bit bigger on the inside, but I mean, there's no lacking of space in any of the cars. But the GTX has a rear trunk of 543 liters, which is very spacious. It's also, more boxy shaped, so arguably more practical. You can have more stuff in this when you fold down the rear seats, though you do not have a frunk. In the Mach-E, the trunk is 400 liters. You also have that fastback shape, so it's not as practical if you want to utilize the whole, cargo space, but it has a frunk of about 100 liters. So when you combine that, that's 500 liters in the Mach-E and 543 liters in the GTX. So the difference isn't actually that big. The GTX has a net battery capacity of 77 kilowatt hours, has a 478 kilometer range according to the WLTP, and can be charged from 10 to 80% according to my test in 36 minutes. And in those 36 minutes, you gain 335 kilometers of range. The Mach-E, on the other hand, has a net battery of 88 kilowatt hours, so quite a big battery in the Mach-E. It also has a WLTP range of 540 kilometers, which is, a fair bit more than in the ID4, and 10 to 80% can be done in 42 minutes. So yeah, the charging takes much longer, but in those 42 minutes you gain 378 kilometers. So tests I have done show that, when you look at kilometers gained per minute, the ID4 is actually faster than the Mach-E. So driving and performance, and this is where there's, the biggest difference in these two cars, in my opinion. So the ID4, especially, when equipped with a DCC, dynamic chassis control, adaptive dampers, like this car has amazing and impressive body control, much better than what you would find in the Mach-E. But, you know, everything else is so numb and boring in my opinion. I mean, it's comfortable, and with the the DCC, the ride is more sophisticated. It's not as comfortable though as the Mach-E, but it's more sophisticated. The Mach-E is much more softly sprung. That means it's much more comfortable. It also has smaller wheels, so it's actually much more quiet on the motorway. So there's less road noise, even though this car has, the double glazed windows. This has huge wheels, which aren't necessarily that much wider than what you would find in the Mach-E, but much less, tire wall. The result is, with less sound insulation in the cabin, which seems to be the case, the Mach-E is almost as quiet as my Audi e-tron to drive on the motorway. I mean, we went to Kristiansand and back again for a holiday, me, my daughter, and my sister and her family. And I drove my e-tron down, and then the day after we came home, I drove the Mach-E on the range test, the Norwegian high-speed run. And I mean, there's barely a difference. If you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't even notice it. This car, though, is still a very quiet. It's not even close to the Mach-E. So the Mach-E is more comfortable and more quiet. It's much more relaxing to drive. On the other hand, this has better steering. I'm not a huge fan of the steering in the Mach-E. It just feels artificial. It centers so aggressively. It just feels more video gamey. I much prefer the steering in this. This weights up naturally. Though none of these steerings have feel, I prefer this. But when it comes to driving dynamics, yes, the Mach-E doesn't have body control as good as this, but it's much more playful and dynamic. Yes, both of these cars are rear wheel bias. You can actually turn off the traction control fully in the Mach-E. You can't do any settings of the traction control here. And just, the hint of losing grip, the traction control in this car flashes like crazy, just like over speed bumps. So it's really nerfed. The Mach-E, on the other hand, is much more playful and a fun car to drive, where this is capable, but it's not fun. And then we have the performance. This has 300 horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.2 seconds. The Mach-E, I've seen different numbers quoted, but it has 354 horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometers in 5.7 seconds, or 5.1, depending on which numbers you're looking at. In my opinion, and the tests I've seen done, which I've done independently, is closer to 5.7 seconds, or 5.8 seconds actually, which is the number I've seen. It feels slower than my e-tron, which does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.7 seconds. So there isn't a huge difference in performance, but I mean, in the driving factor, I think the Mach-E is a much better car to drive, both while being quieter, more comfortable, and more fun to drive. Just a better car overall when it comes to driving. And then we have maybe my hugest gripe of the ID4 compared to the Mach-E, and that is in the interior and tech department. So I'm just going to say it. After having spent a week in the Mach-E and then hopping into this just feels cheap. I mean, yes, the design is very simple and minimalistic, but it's as minimalistic and simple in the Mach-E. I would argue that some elements of the Mach-E is even more minimalistic than this, but this just has cheap materials overall in a lot of places in the cabin, and it's doesn't have, that sense of premiumness that the Mach-E has. And I've said this many times before, or several times before, is that the Mach-E, in my opinion, is the smallest step down from my e-tron in this class of vehicle, which is the non-luxury electric SUV segment. This just feels cheap, and it has a whole bunch of glossy black plastic that just gets dusty and dirty, like here, where you're touching all the time going in and out of the car. It's just, even though I have a microfiber cloth that I use all the time, it's just full of finger marks and dirt. So I'm not a huge fan of this interior. I mean, it's a huge departure from what Volkswagen are known for, and that is high quality interiors in, you know, the non-premium segment. This doesn't have that, so it just feels cheap and looks cheap, even though this has, you know, the dashboard that has the stitching. It's not leather, soft touch plastic, but it has the stitching. The Mach-E just feels much more premium with, you know, soft touch plastic on top of the dashboard, on the inserts, and also, you know, lower down in the cabin, and also, you know, the sound bar with the fabric across I mean, and the sound system, the B&O sound system in the Mach-E is miles better than what you get here. This is quite good, actually. I'm not complaining, but the Mach-E sound system, it's much more better. So, I mean, the interior quality, the look of the interior, and also, you know, that sound system just elevates the Mach-E's interior to a level above this. And then we have the tech. So I'm just going to say it. I think the screen, the main infotainment screen in the Mach-E is too big and overwhelming. I much prefer the size of this. But the infotainment system, not perfect. It's not one of my favorites, but it's so much better and easier to use than this. This is so cumbersome and illogically laid out. There are like a million button presses just to do simple things, to go into your battery percentage. And also everything is touch. I mean, the buttons on the steering wheel here are touch capacitive, which it's okay, but having the physical buttons in the Mach-E is just much easier. And then you have the window switches here, where you have a button to activate the rear windows, because you only have 2 window switches, even though you have 4 windows. It seems like they made this hard to use on purpose. It doesn't have to be this hard to use. And also, yes, this has gotten an upgrade according to sources that, you know, it has more computing power in the infotainment system, but it's still as laggy as ever. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the infotainment system here or this interior. This GTX interior with the blue accents and the red stitching elevates it more than the normal interior, and also with these cool sports seats. But yeah, hands down, the interior quality, the interior feel, and also in the infotainment system in the Mach-E, in my opinion, is so much better. Then we have exterior design, and yeah, this is probably purely subjective, so I'm just going to give you guys my opinion. I do like the look of this GTX, you know, with the painted bumpers, with the big wheels, the GTX logo, the contrast roof, and especially the silver color. I think this thing looks, yeah, pretty badass, but it still looks very minivan-like. Look at it in profile. It looks like a minivan with the short, you know, front hood, and then the short overhangs over the front wheels, and the cabin pushed all the way to the front wheels, and then, you know, this big greenhouse. It looks much more, yeah, minivan than the Mach-E, but I still like it a lot. But I prefer the styling to the Mach-E. The Mach-E just seems slimmer. In a sense, it looks more European than this, because it's slimmer, more slender, and it has that fastback look, so it doesn't look, you know, minivanish like this. Yes, it has smaller wheels, but I'm not a huge fan of these huge wheels on these modern cars, especially when they're 235s in front and 21 inches. It looks a bit comical. So, and also you get, you know, you don't get, you know, that ride quality you could get with smaller wheels. So, I mean, there are many reasons for smaller wheels, and I don't think the small wheels in the Mach-E look small. I think they fit the car perfectly, because the car's smaller, at least it looks smaller, and it's more slender and slimmer. So I prefer the fastback and more sporty look of the Mach-E to this, but again, it's purely subjective. In conclusion, guys, I think the Mach-E is still the better car. Yes, the GTX closes the gap to the Mach-E more, in my opinion. And if you're looking for the ultimate, you know, family car with the most space in the cabin, the biggest trunk, and also the ability to have a roof box and to tow, I mean, this is your car. This is your car. For that, it is better than the Mach-E. And also, if you want to get into the four-wheel drive version, and you don't want to spend 550,000 kroners, you just want to spend less than 500,000 kroners, yeah, then this is your car also. But for everything else, for comfort, for quietness, for interior quality, for the sound system and the driving experience and the interior and exterior looks, I think the Mach-E is a much better car, and if it was my money, I would buy the Ford Mustang Mach-E long range all-wheel drive. So guys, let me know what you think down below. Are these points as important as you? Did I miss something that you guys find important? If so, let me know in the comment section down below, and also let me know which one of these cars would you choose and why. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later, and goodbye. Cloudless sky.